Mount Etna just broke the rules. Not with lava, not with fire, with something that glows, something alive, something wrong. What came out of that mountain was not supposed to exist on Earth. Lab machines broke down, gamma sensors went to maximum, data disappeared into secret servers before anyone could explain what they saw. For the first time in decades, scientists are not just studying a volcano, they are scared of it. Because the last time Etna looked like this was 7,000 years ago. And when that happened, half the sea around Italy vanished under a giant wall of water. So the question is not if Etna changed, the question is why now? And what comes next? Mount Etna sits on the island of Sicily in Italy. It is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. It erupts all the time. Scientists know it well, or they thought they did. For months, Etna was calm. Just small bursts of steam, a little smoke, nothing unusual, but locals started seeing strange things at night. Blue lights glowing near the crater, static in the air, like electricity before a storm. Then the ground started to shake, not much at first, just tiny tremors, but they kept getting stronger. Scientists sent a team to check. They brought instruments, cameras, drones. They expected a normal eruption, textbook stuff. They were wrong. When the team got close, their instruments started acting strange. Temperature sensors showed readings that made no sense. Some said it was hot, others said it was cold at the same time. Gamma radiation detectors started beeping. Fast, too fast. One scientist looked at her screen and froze. The numbers were impossible. They did not match anything in the database. Then the drone footage came in. For 12 seconds, the camera captured something pouring out of the crater. It glowed, not red like lava, not orange. It was blue and white, and it moved like liquid metal. Then the drone died, just stopped, fell into the crater. The team tried to get closer. They could not. The heat was too intense, but they managed to grab one small sample from the edge of the flow. They put it in a metal container, sealed it tight, brought it back to the lab. When they tested it, the sample did something no one expected. It refused to melt. They heated it to 1,600 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt steel, hot enough to melt rock. The sample did not change. It just sat there, glowing faintly, like it was alive. One technician whispered something that everyone heard. "What is this thing?" No one answered because no one knew. The rules had changed, and nobody understood why. The sample went to 5 different labs across Europe. Each lab used different machines, different tests. They all wanted answers. First test, X-ray analysis, no match in the system. Second test, Raman spectroscopy. Results came back scrambled, like the machine was confused. Third test, mass spectrometry. The readings showed elements that should not exist together, not naturally, not on Earth. Scientists started arguing. Some said the sample was contaminated, maybe dirt from the drone, maybe human error, but the tests kept coming back the same. Impossible results, over and over. Meanwhile, satellites watching Etna saw something strange. The mountain was swelling, but not evenly. One side was inflating faster than the other, like something was pushing up from below, something big. Civil defense officials looked at the data. They saw the danger, but they did not sound the alarm. Why? Because they were not sure. The readings were too strange, too unusual. If they evacuated everyone and nothing happened, people would be angry. They would lose trust, so they waited and watched and hoped the data was wrong. Then a memo leaked online. It was from the monitoring center. It said thresholds were exceeded, safety limits were broken, but the warning stayed classified. People started asking questions. Why did nobody tell us? Why are they keeping secrets? The government said everything was under control. Do not panic. Trust the experts. But the experts were panicking, just not in public. Back in the labs, researchers kept testing the sample. One scientist noticed something odd. The sample was emitting low levels of radiation, not dangerous yet, but constant, like a heartbeat. She ran the test again. Same result. She called her colleague. He tested his piece of the sample. Same heartbeat. This was not supposed to happen. Rock does not do this. Lava does not do this. So what was it? One theory said it was some kind of rare mineral, something that only forms deep in the earth. Maybe Etna brought it up from the mantle. Another theory said it was synthetic, man-made, maybe old military waste that melted into the magma decades ago. But neither theory explained why it would not melt, or why it glowed, or why it pulsed with radiation. Scientists started looking at old records, maps, studies from decades ago. They found something that made them stop cold. 7,000 years ago, Etna's eastern flank collapsed. A massive chunk of the mountain slid into the sea. It created a tsunami. Waves hit the coast of Italy, Greece, North Africa. Hundreds of villages vanished. The scientists looked at current satellite data. They compared it to the old maps. The shape of the mountain was changing. The eastern flank was bulging, moving, slowly sliding toward the sea, just like 7,000 years ago. One analyst sent an urgent message to the monitoring center. If the flank collapses, we will have minutes. Not hours, minutes. The message was marked urgent. It was logged, filed, and then ignored because officially the risk was low. The models said so, but the models did not account for glowing samples, or impossible readings, or heartbeats in stone. The rules were different now, and nobody wanted to admit it. Etna started shaking harder. Small earthquakes hit every few hours, then every hour, then every few minutes. Locals in villages near the mountain started packing bags. Some left, most stayed. The government sent out bulletins. Stay calm, monitor official channels, do not spread rumors. But online, people were not calm. Videos showed cracks forming in roads, houses tilting, water turning brown in wells. One scientist could not take it anymore. She copied the lab data onto a USB drive. She uploaded it to an independent research network. Within hours, the data went viral. People saw the impossible readings, the radiation levels, the comparisons to the ancient collapse. Panic spread faster than the government could control it. They tried to shut down the leak. They said the data was taken out of context, misunderstood, but then more footage appeared. Someone filmed the ground near Etna at night. The soil was glowing faintly, just like the sample. Another person recorded sound near the crater, a low rumble. Too low for human ears to hear normally, but microphones picked it up. It sounded like breathing, deep, slow, rhythmic. Scientists analyzed the sound. It was infrasound, vibrations coming from deep underground. Something was moving down there, something massive, and it was getting closer to the surface. Civil defense officials called an emergency meeting. Should they evacuate? Should they wait? The data said evacuate. The models said wait. They argued for hours. No decision. Then a second tremor hit, stronger than before. Sensors showed the eastern flank sliding 5 centimeters per hour. That might not sound like much, but for a mountain, it is huge. If the slope gave way, millions of tons of rock would hit the sea. The tsunami would reach the coast in minutes. Finally, the officials agreed, evacuate. But it was night. People were asleep. The alert system was not ready. They started making calls, sending texts, knocking on doors. Some people left, others refused. They did not trust the government anymore. One man said on camera, "They lied before. Why should we believe them now?" Meanwhile, something strange happened at the lab. A military convoy arrived. No warning, no explanation. Soldiers walked in. They showed official documents. They demanded the samples. The scientists argued, "This is our research. You cannot just take it." The soldiers did not argue back. They just took the samples, loaded them into sealed containers, drove away. Locals filmed the convoy on their phones, posted it online. People wanted answers. What was in those containers? Why did the military need them? The government said nothing. Conspiracy theories exploded. Some said it was alien material. Others said it was a secret weapon test gone wrong. The truth was simpler and scarier. Nobody knew what it was. Not the scientists, not the military, not the government. And that terrified them. On television, experts tried to calm people down. One geologist said, "Volcanoes are unpredictable, but we have systems in place." The host asked, "What about the radiation? What about the substance that will not melt?" The geologist paused. He looked uncomfortable. "We do not know yet. We are still studying it." That was the first time an expert admitted it on live TV. We do not know. Trust collapsed. People stopped listening to official channels. They listened to each other, to the leaked data, to the videos. The mountain kept shaking. The flank kept sliding. And the glowing substance kept pulsing, like a heartbeat, like something waking up. Dawn came. The shaking stopped. The plume of smoke from Etna faded. The sky turned clear. Sirens went silent. For a moment, everyone thought it was over, but the instruments told a different story. Deep underground, something was still moving. The seismic sensors showed activity, not violent, just constant, like something settling into place. Scientists checked the eastern flank. It had stopped sliding, for now, but the damage was done. Cracks ran through the mountainside, deep cracks, some wide enough to see into. One research team sent a drone into a crack. The camera showed something nobody expected. The rock inside was glowing, faintly, blue and white, just like the sample. Whatever came out of the crater was not gone. It was inside the mountain now. The military returned the samples to the labs. Finally. But something was different. The samples were dimmer now, still glowing, but weaker. Scientists tested them again. The radiation levels had dropped. The heartbeat pulse was slower. One researcher had a theory. What if the substance was not rock at all? What if it was biological, not alive like animals or plants, but alive like bacteria or fungus, something that lives deep in the earth, in heat, in pressure, in darkness. And when Etna erupted, it brought this thing to the surface. The theory was wild. Most scientists rejected it, but it explained some things. The pulse, the glow, the way it changed over time. If it was alive, it could adapt, react, survive. The question was, what would it do next? Villages near Etna were evacuated. Thousands of people left their homes. Some went to shelters. Others stayed with family in other cities. They did not know when they could return, or if they could return. The government promised support, money, housing, help. But people were angry. They felt abandoned, lied to. One woman stood in front of news cameras. They knew. They knew something was wrong, and they said nothing. She held up her phone, showed the leaked data. We had to find out from strangers on the internet, not from our own government. Her voice broke. My children could have died because they wanted to avoid panic. The clip went viral. Millions of views. The government tried to respond. They said they acted as soon as they had clear data, but nobody believed them anymore. Scientists kept monitoring Etna. The mountain was quiet now, but not normal. The glowing cracks stayed lit. The infrasound continued, faint but constant. Satellite data showed something else. The ground around Etna was warm, warmer than it should be. Like the substance was spreading underground, slowly, through cracks in the rock. One geologist said in a private meeting, what if it is not just in Etna? What if it is in other volcanoes, too? The room went silent. Nobody wanted to think about that, but they had to. If this substance existed in one volcano, it could exist in others. Etna was just the first place it reached the surface. The implications were huge. Every volcano on Earth could have this thing inside, waiting dormant until something woke it up. Months passed. Etna stayed quiet. No more eruptions, no more earthquakes. The evacuated villages stayed empty, too dangerous to return. Scientists kept studying the samples, slowly, carefully. They learned some things. The substance responded to heat and pressure and certain types of radiation, but they still did not know what it was or where it came from. The military classified most of the research, locked it away. Officially, the story ended. Etna erupted. People evacuated, crisis avoided, but the truth was different. The crisis was not over. It was paused. The substance was still there, inside the mountain, glowing, pulsing, waiting. And every scientist who studied it knew one thing for certain. This was not the last time it would happen again. Today, if you visit Sicily, you can see Mount Etna in the distance. It looks calm, beautiful, almost peaceful. But if you get close enough, you can see the cracks in the mountainside, still glowing faintly at night. Locals rebuilt their lives, far from the danger zone. Scientists rebuilt their confidence, but with humility now, they admit what they do not know, and they know it is a lot. The samples sit in secure labs behind thick glass, monitored 24 hours a day, still glowing, still pulsing, like a warning. Maybe that is what it was all along. Not a threat, just a message. The planet does not follow our rules. It does not care about our models, our predictions, our timelines. It operates on its own schedule, its own logic. And maybe the best thing we can do is listen, watch, respect, because the next time something like this happens, we might not get a warning. We might just get the event. And when that day comes, the only question that matters is this: will we be ready?